Welcome, everyone. We'll just continue with our reading and reflection on Rishabhchandji's book in The Mother's Light, as we were doing last time. We were discussing and reflecting and reading on how to realize the psychic. Yeah, I think I just lost it somewhere. Yeah, here. So last time we had read until here, page number 86 of this book in The Mother's Light. I think this much we have done. So we'll just take up this passage and start from here. There's still quite a bit which is very important and relevant. Many of us may have, I think those of us who have been with Mother Sure in those words for a long time, it's not that we have not read the word psychic and we've not reflected over it or at times felt the psychic presence and friends maybe, have had glimpses of that. But I was wondering that there is a little difference between realization, what we say maybe psychic realization, and psychic transformation. And one example which I thought I'll share, it's like realization can be related, or maybe metaphorically related with, say, for example, you are living in plains, and if you go to mountains, you take a bit of time, to kind of adjust to the altitude, but you have changed your altitude. The altitude is now changed. Just a second. There is, what is it? Okay. Okay. Is anyone having problems with seeing or hearing my voice?
No, Monica. No.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So you are maybe something at your end. Yeah. Sorry about that. So I was just sharing this example that, for example, we are living in plains and the body is adjusted. Yes, Shilpa? Okay, Shilpa is connecting to the audio. So the body is adjusted to the plains, the altitude of the plains. And now when you move to the higher altitude, although you have made the move to the higher altitude, but the body has not yet adapted. So usually they say that whenever you go to mountains or places like which are hilly or like a bit on higher altitude, you should relax and rest for some time before you continue any activity like hiking or whatever. So giving time for acclimatization so that the body becomes comfortable with that kind of a climate and then it gets in tune. So we may have glimpses of psychic influence, we may have touched the psychic space. It is impossible that we have not. And yet, when the whole nature adjusts and gets in tune with the psychic, that's a different matter. And that's a long process. So psychic realization may be one thing, and psychic glimpses may be one thing, but psychic transformation would be then another thing. Because psychic transformation would need a lot of time. Many a times the older, lower parts may still resist, and one needs to deal with that in patience and perseverance. With devotion and faith, one just carries on. And it takes a long time until mind, vital, physical, all gets in tune with the psychic realization. They are all now really like obeying the will of the psychic, and that requires a lot of time. So yeah, since we were talking about the psychic, so I thought I'll just put this in front, maybe for reflection. So it is said by Mother Sri Aurobindo, we read it again and again that a very good starting point is, all of us may be aware, is to go in the center of your chest. Like Mother many a times talks about it and uses the word solar plexus, but then all the time we see below a note about the solar plexus that Mother is referring to the heart center. So many a times solar plexus may be taken below the heart, like where our tummy is. But that's not what Mother usually is talking when she says that concentrate here in the center of the chest. Now that is clear, but when she says solar plexus, then one can get confused. So at times we see that there is a note given down below when Mother uses the word solar plexus. So in the center of our chest and deep in the depths of our heart, that's the easiest point where we can concentrate if we want to have any stability in the psychic presence. And then later, as we are ready, we can open up to other centers also, like we can fluctuate in between heart center and then or in the eye, in between of the eyebrows, like what they say, third eye, or one can also place attention above the head here. And Sri Aurobindo and Mother have given enough examples of how to concentrate above the head, like how to open beyond the mind, open the mind to higher consciousness. But this is very handy. Concentrating in the heart is what we can start with and continue for a long time. So we left here, yeah, right here. Concentrate in the heart, enter into it, go within and deep and far. And Mother also says that somebody asked that what is the way to listen to something, that for example, maybe somebody is doing the guided meditation or listening to a talk or anything. And Mother says that the best way is, one of the ways is that you place your attention without thinking, without active thinking, you place your attention in the center of your chest, deep in the depths of your heart. And that's how you listen to something that you want to really hear attentively. Go within and deep and far as you can. Gather all the strings of your consciousness that are spread abroad, roll them up, and take a plunge and sink down. A fire is burning there in the deep quietude of your heart. It is the divinity in you, your true being. Hear its voice, follow its dictates. In the depths of your consciousness is the psychic being, the temple of the divine in you. This is the center around which should come about the unification of all these divergent parts, all the contradictory movements of your being. And once Dr. Anand Reddy from Pondicherry, he had used a very good example to make us understand what is usually happening in the being. And he said that usually uh, he called mind, vital, and the physical minister, and psychic is the maybe the prime minister or the president, somebody having power. So he said that usually in our day-to-day ordinary consciousness, all the ministers are having the utmost power and they are doing whatever they like, and that's why it's a chaos in the being. And as we go towards the psychic and as we put it in front and have a little bit of realization that, okay, yes, this is what I should be listening to, then slowly mind, vital, the emotional being, and the physical being, they also now have somebody up there to look forward to. Now we listen to the dictates of the psychic, while earlier all the ministers were just hanging around, doing whatever they want to do with their uh, kingdom. And that is what we see in ourselves. Ordinarily, We are just pulled here and there. Mind is saying something, emotions are saying something, instincts, impulses, the body wants something else. There is no unification. So when we walk towards the psychic, even walking towards the psychic brings a certain unification in the being. Like, okay, now I see that, okay, this is beneficial for me, and this is what the mind should hear, the vital should hear, and even the physical follow. So I often remember that example. I think it's a very good uh, imagery to understand about unification. So anything here? Anyone wants to share? Okay, so then maybe we can then go ahead, take a bit further. So this is where we stopped last. I think this much we did. So now we can take it up from here. And yeah, anyone who would like to read, please go ahead.
It's very unclear. I can read it, but it's very hazy, but I'll start. It is to be noted here that one may concentrate above the crown of the head or between. It's fine now, it's perfect. I'll restart. It is to be noted here that one may concentrate above the crown of the head or between the eyebrows, or one may directly concentrate on the idea of the divine immanence in the world. There are so many ways and objects of concentration as there are aspects and poises of the divine. But for the full realization of the psychic, there is but one way: concentration in the deepest depths of the being, a plunge into the fathomless cave of the heart. And it is also to be noted that the total psychic realization is indispensable for a dynamic union with the divine and the transformation of nature. The central being lies in the heart, and from the heart proceeds all central movements, all dynamism, and urge for transformation and power of realization.
So I was reading something by Sri Aurobindo where he was saying that two things. One is that, or maybe, yeah, only one is enough right now, because he says that somebody maybe was called to focus somewhere, like concentrate somewhere else, and feeling like your attention is called to some other place, some other center in the being. And Sri Aurobindo said that continue whatever one is getting a call towards, you can continue doing that. And it means that enough basis has developed, because since we start with concentrating in the heart, most of us start, those of us on the path of integral yoga, we start with concentrating in the heart. So he said that enough basis, enough stability there must have been made so that one is called to other centers now, which also are important, because he talks about then the descent of force, and that descent should change and open up each center of the being. So with the psychic realization, with the center of the heart, it starts, it continues, as it is said that for the full realization of the psychic, there is but one way, concentration is that in the deepest depths of the being, plunge into the fathomless cave of the heart. And Mother has given at several places something like a meditation through her words, which can be used. She says, like, in the depth of the heart, you imagine the psychic fire and you put like ahutis, whatever comes to you, like thoughts, feelings, and all the shadow and darker parts. You, as a ahuti, you are putting that into the fire. And when you put that in the fire burns brighter, and that's the psychic fire. So she has said that somewhere also, which is quite meditative. And this is what I was earlier, I think, talking about. Yeah, this much, that first is realization, and once the realization is stabilized, then the transformation. When you settle down, you settle down in a home, in a place, in a higher altitude or wherever, where the altitude is shift, then in some time the body gets adapted to the new environment. But if we keep fluctuating, then transformation, in the beginning, we do keep fluctuating. There is not a very good stability. Sometimes we listen to the psychic presence, sometimes we do not. So then it's like an obstacle or something which obstructs the transformation of nature. And once through our all experiences, we are convinced that no, I have to remain at this level. Then slowly the mind, vital, and the physical begin to listen to that command. So the nature can change. Not that the mind remains what it is and vital remains what it is, but now the nature can change. So this is indispensable. That total psychic realization is indispensable, that you know who is the master for a dynamic union with the divine and transformation of nature. Why would transformation happen? We can think about it. If I'm all the time changing altitudes, there is no need for transformation. But now, then I know that I have to settle down here. Now the nature can adapt to the new altitude. Yeah. So anything, any reflection here we can take from this note?
Well, I couldn't see properly, so I don't remember exactly, but I think it says like for a dynamic realization of the divine, a dynamic relation. Like I think that was a very important word. Uh, like maybe in another practices, the psychic is not so important, but for a dynamic relation or identification with the divine, this is so important.
Yes, yes. Actually, the word dynamic here is very important. You're correct, because at other location, Mother also talks about, say, for example, meditation. And then she adds this word dynamic meditation to it. And she says that meditation is not that like you're just sitting and watching thoughts come and go, not like that. You are dynamically participating in that sitting. So that's why she calls it not meditation, but dynamic meditation. You're active, something is active. It's not like just passive sitting, which actually it happens with most of us, because since we are so loaded with inertia and tamas, at times meditation can become a means to like have a good time, you know, sleep, for example, having dullness, and that feels like good. Dullness feels good. So you, and Jetsunma also talks about it, Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo, she says that when you rise above from meditation, you should be more alert and like you feel like, something is active within. Not like you're like feeling like, oh, let's go back to sleep. I do sleep, but one must. That's when he says that that's when the meditation has been successful. When you are feeling alert after meditation and not sleepy. You know. Active meditation. Yeah, actually, we can pull up Mother's words. What can be more best than that on dynamic meditation? She's used this word. Yeah, in the meantime, if anyone wants to share anything, please.
Yeah, what you just, shared, that if we keep coming back to the lower altitudes, then
Hmm.
how would the body get used to it, right? Like, why would it? Because it knows it can always just go back and, right, like breathe better. So it does not need to learn to breathe in that amount of oxygen, for example. I think that's a very revelatory thing. I mean, a lot of times we wonder that I'm trying, right? Why doesn't it happen? Because I keep coming back to my ways, right? And I think in that book, the mother also, in the beginning, Sri Aurobindo mentions, right? Like 100% kind of your concentration, stillness, devotion, like even a single part of the being, if it's not wanting, it would not happen. So I have read it several times, but I could never visualize it till what you just said in that example, that if I'm giving myself options to get out, right? Like insincere options, right? Like, okay, I can always just do this and relax. I don't need to find that solace there or that active, what you were saying, right? It's very eye-opening, is all I wanted to say, that I'm not in that situation fully, right? Like, एक होता ना करता क्या ना मरता क्या ना करता, as in I have no choice. And I think that is why they talk about, there has to be an absolute dejection sometimes, right? With your old ways, like absolute disgust that I cannot, why do I keep sitting here? Why do I keep visiting this place again and again? And then you just propel forward, ki, enough, no, don't want to be here. So unless I have that option, till I have that option, I would not propel. And once I feel that's it, I don't. And that's true for every aspect of my being, that if I have an option, I keep going back to it. And that's why I'm not be able to settle in the higher, because I keep visiting the lower world. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, so this is what I think I was referring to. So somebody is asking Mother a question about dynamizing meditation, and then she talks about it. Yeah. So anyone would like to read? It would be nice. We can go through it.
I'll read. Sweet Mother, what does Sri Aurobindo mean by a self-dynamizing meditation? It is a meditation that has the power of transforming your being. It is a meditation which makes you progress, as opposed to static meditation, which is immobile and relatively inert, and which changes nothing in your consciousness or in your way of being. A dynamic meditation is a meditation of transformation. Generally, people don't have a dynamic meditation. When they enter into meditation, or at least what they call meditation, they enter into a kind of immobility where nothing stirs, and they come out of it exactly as they went in, without any change either in their being or in their consciousness. And the more motionless it is, the happier they are. They could meditate in this way for eternity. It would never change anything either in the universe or in themselves. That is why Sri Aurobindo speaks of dynamic meditation, which is exactly the very opposite. It is a transforming meditation.
Yeah.
But still,
So
it doesn't
then,
explain. Sorry, Monica.
Yeah, she goes
It's
further
not
actually.
explaining what it is.
Yeah, she's going further. So then the person is asking, how is it done? So you can go ahead
Hmm.
actually. Yeah.
So, how is it done? Is it done in a different way? I think it is the aspiration that should be different. The attitude should be different. Different way. What do you mean by the way? Laughing, the way of sitting, not that. The inner way, yes. But for each one, it is different. I think the most important thing is to know why one meditates. This is what gives the quality of the meditation, and this is what gives the quality of the meditation and makes it of one order or another. You may meditate to open yourself to the divine force. You may meditate to reject the ordinary consciousness. You may meditate to enter the depths of your being. You may meditate to learn how to give yourself integrally. You may meditate for all kinds of things. You may meditate to enter into peace and calm and silence. This is what people generally do, but without much success. But you may also meditate to receive the force of transformation, to discover the points to be transformed, to trace out the line of progress. And then you may also meditate for very practical reasons. When you have a difficulty to clear up, a solution to find, when you want help in some action or the other, you may meditate for that too. I think everyone has his own mode of meditation, but if one wants the meditation to be dynamic, one must have an aspiration for progress, and the meditation must be done to help and fulfill this aspiration for progress. Then it becomes dynamic.
Yeah. So I think this is really very powerful, this piece, what you just read. And this bit, so as mother says that first of all, as we are in different phases of our progression, everyone would have a different, resonance. Not everyone may resonate with one particular style, like she's sharing that one may meditate to open oneself to the divine force. Now, this is a very concrete experience for some of us who may have visited Pondicherry, the Samadhi, that when I don't know, it must be an experience for many, that when you are there, you feel an active stillness and force working upon you. You may not want it, but it's there. Like you've not actively asked for it. You didn't go there that wanting to feel that force and stillness, but some solid kind of a peace, like active peace. It's like it's coming to you. So then, if you are porous, if you are open to that force, you can allow your porosity to take in that force and let it work on you. And many a times, many of us, I'm sure, whenever even we think of Samadhi or Mother or Sri Aurobindo, we feel a force acting in us. How we feel it could be different. Some people may say that it's mumbo jumbo, there is no feeling, but then I think to each his own. But now, those of us who are ready to feel the force acting, we can actually feel the vibrations of the force acting at different centers when we are opening ourselves to the divine force. And all these are the centers which have already been talked about with Mother Sri Aurobindo, also other masters also, especially the points which they call as chakras. They all are the points which have to open slowly. And Sri Aurobindo talks about that it has to open in integral yoga with Mother Sri Aurobindo. There is a descent through which that opens, which is a safer way. Like first, the some pressure from above, then the wisdom eye or whatever they call it, the will, the dynamic power, the mind area, the throat externalizing speech, that opens. Then the heart may already have opened. So it's like coming from top to down, which is a very safer way, he says. So when we open ourselves to Mother's force, we see and we feel the force acting in the body. And we don't need to explain it to anyone. If it's acting for you, it's acting. then you may meditate to reject the ordinary consciousness. Many a times we are assailed by thoughts and storylines and feelings. Why that person said that, he should not have done that, whatever, things from the past, worries of future. And something in you has decided that, no, I don't want to go there. As Saru was sharing, that now you have decided that lower altitude is not your possibility. You don't want to go there. So even when the ripples come, you meditate, you sit in quiet so that you can actively look at them and reject. So that could be the intention. So you may meditate to reject the ordinary consciousness. You don't have to sit. One can do it walking or wherever, one is working. You may meditate to enter the depths of your being. At times we are called to go deep within. You lose interest in the outer mundane activities or celebrations or festivities. You want to commune with yourself and you want that quiet time. So something is calling. So we may meditate to enter the depths of our being. You may meditate to learn how to give yourself integrally. Again, that may be a call that I want to give to myself, to the mother, more and more. So inwardly making a gesture of offering at the feet of the mother, or whatever, however we may visualize, we are giving ourselves. All my thoughts belong to the mother, all my feelings belong to the mother, the physical belong to the mother, nothing else is mine. My whole life, my relations, my children, they all belong to the mother. Nothing I'm keeping for myself. So this could be like my calling. At times I will be called to do this. And this is active. Again, something active is happening. In all of these, something active is happening. You may meditate for all kinds of things. You may meditate to enter into peace and calm and silence. This is what we generally do. But this gets distorted because in our consciousness, dualistic consciousness, peace has degraded and become tamas, inertia, dullness. As Dr. Basu also many times talks about it, that peace has degraded in manifestation, and when we are too peaceful, at times we are most stagnant. No progress is happening, and we say, "Oh, I am so at content with myself." So that could be also a possibility. And then he talks about this, meditate to receive the force. Now, most of the time, Sri Aurobindo talks about this, receiving the force of transformation from above. So you are as if like some fountain is pressing from above and you're opening yourself to that force, and which can enter your being and slowly transform all the centers. Each part can be open to it. So you may meditate consciously opening yourself so that you receive the force of transformation, to discover the points to be transformed, and to trace out the line of progress. It's very interesting, how in Letters on Yoga also he is described like fully in detail how these centers work, how if the force is felt in the throat, what is getting worked upon, how if the force is felt in the abdomen or the lower region, then the vital is being worked upon by the force. So it's very clear, I've never come across such a clear, detailed description of things like how they are happening. So it's really revelatory. And this is what we call, in mother's terms, dynamic meditation. So you are actively participating in meditation. So yeah, I really thank Yuan to pick up the word dynamic, and Shilpa to question it. Yeah. Yeah. Anything here? Anyone?
Thank you, Monica, for these wonderful reminders. Sometimes it's like very easy to get into that just witness and watching, and then you're almost asking yourself, okay, now what do I do with this? Even though one knows, okay, this is how it is, but then you're so sort of, I find myself sometimes witnessing so much that I don't want to leave that space because one has stepped back and not entangled in the conversation or the drama of life by just that stepping back. So it's like almost realizing to that reluctance to get engaged and have an active meditation will actually make it more, exactly the word dynamic. And also today I read something in Synthesis of Yoga on that chapter, Annihilation of the Ego. I think I can't remember what page number, but there, although it's not connected with meditation, she's talking about nature. Sri Aurobindo's talking about nature and the veil, and that you can only receive the light when that veil is removed. But when you're being the witness, you watch, you also see that veil and you see the working of nature without getting involved. And then further on, uh, you can get the direct light once the veil is removed. So it's almost being
Yeah, I think we lost you from there on
sorry, I
the.
think I lost.
Yeah, now please go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yeah, audible. Yeah, lost you again. I don't know if you're speaking.
Yeah, no, I think it's just poor reception in
Yeah,
pockets of my office. Anyway, and I thought
yeah,
I'd grab
now.
this moment when I could communicate.
Thank you. Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I think this is very important because in Letters on Yoga, he also talks about how first there has to be emptying of the cup. And we have touched upon this many times, how the cup has to be empty. And that emptiness, many sadhaks then are asking, like, what is this emptiness? Like a kind of a dumbness also at times one may feel that one is getting more dumb, because we are so used to calculating, manipulating all the time that emptiness feels like dumbness. And then, as you were sharing about that witness aspect, that is a very good basis. Without that, that emptiness would not arise. So now cup is getting empty. You're not actively engaging in all those trivial movements which you used to engage in, but now you don't feel that the necessity of engaging in it. So that creates a lot of space. And Sri Aurobindo uses several words for it: emptiness, voidness, blankness. And then he actually uses this metaphor of an empty cup, that if you want the divine force to come and transform your being, the cup has to be emptied, and it has to be emptied regularly, because from time to time the rejection will be needed. Like, okay, something comes, remove, something comes, remove. So that emptiness has to be stabilized. And then, as Mother was talking about the dynamic meditation, you open yourself to the higher, so that it can come into you like a flow of Ganga, and like continue to do its work. So yes, witnessing aspect and stability in the witnessing, and then the emptiness. And we usually may stop. Many people talk about stopping at the witnessing, like, okay, I have become the witness and now that's it. But then there is no engagement in the world possible. So we don't want to become useless also. And Sri Aurobindo's yoga takes it further, and it says that after that witnessing is stabilized, which now can be, I feel that it can be stabilized earlier than we think it would be, because supramental force is at work, so things are easier. And creating that empty blank space, and parallelly inviting the force to work in us, and not pulling, since Mother talks about opening and pulling, two things. Not that, okay, something should come in me and work, not like that, but just being like empty, open cup, open, waiting. And you almost kind of, fall in love with this waiting, that even if you have to do it for all your life, it doesn't matter. So that kind of a perseverance has to be there. That it's not a means to an end, that waiting. You're happy waiting, like a bhakta is for the divine. Yeah.
Monica, but also I'm just thinking that, in that witness and that kind of space that one gets to, because there is an aspiration for her will to be done. it is very, it seems to me that it's like a fine line in waiting for that will to be done and the dynamic meditation. It's like, I guess, that then flows from that opening and the light coming down to you. But it feels like it's a very fine line, because you're in that space of it, say, okay, Ma, I'm open to, whatever it is your will. And then it's easy to slip into a non-dynamic meditation, isn't it?
Yes, yes, you're right. Yeah. I think that's why they talk about so much about bringing the psychic to the front, bringing the psychic to the front, because psychic would be like a compass. The moment things go into the some manipulation or some dullness, we know. All of us know, and then we can set it right. So that's the benefit of putting the psychic in front as in charge. That whatever it would say, you would know. By knowing, we understand that, oh, something I did or something I said, which was not in tune with what psychic may want. And we get to know that when the compass moves, we get to know. Yeah. Okay, so anything? Maybe we can take up a little bit more, maybe this much, 2 paragraphs we can take. Uh, Taru, is it clear now?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it
Okay,
was just unclear right in the beginning. Since then, it's
okay,
very sharp.
okay. So maybe this much you can take
So
it up.
I'll read. Yeah.
Hmm.
Describing the most concrete and effective way in which the psychic can be discovered, the mother says, very often at the beginning of sadhana, one has the impression as if the psychic being is shut up in a kind of shell or prison, and it is that which prevents it from manifesting itself outside and coming into conscious and constant contact with the external consciousness, the surface being. In endeavoring to join with the psychic, one feels exactly as if there was a wall in front which one must break through, or there is a door which must be forced if one were to enter. If you can break through the wall, open the door, then the psychic being is freed and it can manifest itself externally. You sit in meditation before a closed door, as it were, heavy as a door of bronze. You sit still with the will that the door must open so that you may cross over to the other side. The entire concentration, the entire aspiration is gathered together and made to push against the door, push more and more with increasing energy until all on a sudden the door gives way and you enter, thrown as it were into the light. It is a powerful, unforgettable experience. You go through a sudden and radical change of consciousness with an illumination that completely seizes hold of you, giving you the sensation that you have become another person. This is a very concrete and effective way of entering in contact with one's psychic being.
Maybe you can take this
Yeah, it
also. This is
seems like a
also,
continuation. Yeah, there's
yeah.
no One remembers in this connection the teaching of the Christ: knock and it shall be opened unto thee. It is the intense, unwavering sincerity of the will, the inflexible determination, the stubborn, indefatigable perseverance. Vyavasyamika buddhi, the indomitable courage and tireless patience with which the Buddha clove through the meshes of samsara into the heart of truth that are needed for the discovery and realization of the psychic. One has to knock and knock hard and harder till the door flies open and the long cherished treasure of our seeking stands gleaming before our eyes. What is below that? 1 in a million who has a conscious?
If you want to read, you can read this also.
The mother says that there is not one person in a million who has a conscious relation with his psychic being, even for a moment. The psychic being can work from within, but for the external being in such an invisible and unconscious way as if it does not exist. In most cases, in almost all cases, in fact, the psychic being is asleep, as it were, not active at all, but in a kind of torpor. A very sustained effort is needed to become conscious of one's psychic being. You would be considered very fortunate if you succeeded in doing so after put in 30 years of arduous labor.
I think this is also very interesting. Loving aspiration. Like one actually has to fall in love with that aspiration. Otherwise, frustration and why is it not happening? Why am I not changing? All that can happen. But this loving aspiration that you are so convinced that if not for this, you would not be anywhere at any stage, and not you are convinced after all your experiences that this is what I want, and one falls in love with that effort and aspiration and everything. Yeah.
And even the third line where it says everything changes in a second. Like,
Hmm.
although, right now it was 30 years and we have seen, so many examples, like, not to get discouraged. And because a lot of times we feel that why to even start? I might not even have 30 years. And yet everything changes in a second. It's just a manner of speaking, right? It's just the dedication that is required.
The dedication. Yes, yes.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think this actually makes the path also joyous. Like in Buddhism, we talk about enthusiastic effort, joyful effort. So we are not doing effort which is like a dry and dull effort that, oh, when will I reach there? It's not like that. When we fall in love with that practice itself, then there is no hurry to reach somewhere. When it will happen, whatever has to happen, we have no clue, and that may keep happening. But you have no, it's like a choicelessness on this path that you have no other way to go but this.
This thing where it says the inflexible determination, the stubborn, indefatigable, fatigable perseverance. This is, I think, what when I was saying that when you shared that example, right, that I keep coming back. Like this is the opposite of that, right? Because whenever even if we talk about materialistic real happenings in life, say a Bhagat Singh or say a Jhansi ki Rani, she's gone and she's like, अरे बहुत मेहनत लग रही है, छोड़ ही देती हूँ, है ना? मतलब as in it never works that way. Like anything that you have to actually, I mean, if you take anything to its maximum possibility, in that stubbornness and that perseverance, right? Like come what may. Like, मैं अपनी झांसी किसी को नहीं दूंगी. That's it. That was one thing. And even now, kids know, I know so much about her because there was something that was different about her. She didn't give up. And we give up too easy, right? Like like I guess, with the modern times, these concepts of flexibility, comfort, they have a very strong hold on ourselves, right? इतनी भी क्या जिद है, balance, equanimity के नाम पे हम लोग उसको ही काम कर, है ना? Like we keep going here and there, here and there. So this stubbornness and determinism, without this, it's not a possibility, it seems.
What you were, the example that you were sharing, and I think in those cases, there also is a choicelessness that even if I lose my life, I actually have no other way to go but this. And as you were talking about the flexibility and the number of choices we have nowadays, that if you can actually choose comfort, why will you use effort? And that's why Deepa Ma, says that be away from luxury, comfort, because luxury and comfort, they kill your soul. So don't be too comfortable. And all that we have in modern lifestyle is, okay, is this comfortable? Yeah.
And that's what, say, a father is aspiring for their children, right? Like maximum comfort, maximum, like how it's like it feels that this is the best that you can give them. Comfortable life, right? Like it's become bigger than everything. What is the goal of life? Like what would you want for your children? Most likely a person would say a comfortable life, right? Because in comfort, they would see that, okay, there would be financial stability, there would be health, there would be this thing. Like that is the go-to word now, which is very scary, right? Because if that's what you're aspiring for, and here they're talking about the Buddha, right? Like how in documentaries they say that when he was sitting under the Bodhi tree, how one after the other he was given attractions, right? This Siddhi, that Siddhi, take that, take this, like just stop, just see, this will take you there, this will take you there. And it was like, nope, nope. Like, and I think the moment you stop and even consider, "Kesha, le loo kya?" It goes, right? It just goes. So in my everyday, if I'm just reverting back to what is comfortable, how can I even, say the A of transformation, like the T of transformation, when I keep reverting to my old ways and comfort that ho jayega now. And I think that is
And
why,
also,
again, when
yeah,
sorry,
please.
Shilpa was sharing, about that there is that inner aspiration, right? That mothers will come. Like for me, I feel that also becomes passive. There's a big picture and then there's a everyday aspiration, right? There's one thing that, oh, I am, on the bigger whole surrendered, or I know this is what I want. But if my everyday, every moment, kind like, especially if I'm sitting or if whatever, every time I'm getting up, if I'm not repeating it, because I'm repeating it for myself, it's not for anybody else, it has a tendency to get into the background. I forget and then I get set in my ways, right? So again, I think in even saying that, okay, this I'm aspiring for the mother's will to happen, that in itself is a dynamic aspiration every time. Because it's not that she forgets, but I forget, and that groove again just becomes a habit and falls into some kind of dullness. Thanks.
Yeah, I think what you were sharing when Sri Aurobindo talks about central surrender and detailed surrender. Centrally, something has said, okay, I want mother's will to be done. But then it has to become detailed. Because if I look at my life and moment to moment how I live, then we will see many loopholes and we will see that no, I may say that I want this, but actually in action it's not happening. In words, in speech, in thoughts, it's not happening. So that's what, is detailed surrender, what you were talking about. Yeah. And what regarding comfort, I had wanted to share something that why is it easy for me to go back into those comfortable zones? Because the path is well made. I have been there for centuries. It's like a slippery slope is ready. I don't have to carve a new path. So when I'm in comfortable zones, I'm in those grooves which have been well set, well made. Like no effort needs to be done. And it makes you feel, oh, good, like relax. And that's why mother talks about being disgusted with the older self, because once I have been in those grooves enough and something in my being now gets repulsed by those grooves every time I settle down there, then one tries to climb up that no, if left for me, whatever, marta kya na karta, you were saying, that either I will die, or make this effort. So you make this effort like Bhagat Singh and Jhansi Ki Rani, the examples that you were sharing. That there is no choice. Now I just can't stand being here. And the point with us is that we can stand. What you were talking about, having a balanced life. We can stand. Okay, everybody is doing it. I can also do it. And there we kill our soul. And then we are wondering, why do I feel still empty and why is something missing in my life every day? Yeah.
And in comfort, like you were saying that it's a old groove. Like one thing more there is that, with all these things that we are surrounded with, there's instant momentary gratification, right? There's momentary delight. That if I just go and open something and just, have a good, I don't know, whatever, it feels, oh, good. Oh, wow, this is nirvana. Like, I am fooled to believe that because again, the pleasure, the delight, which is short term, but it's right there, right? I can see it. I have experienced it so many times. So again, the focus on that, it just goes away, right? It just, even while if I'm craving something to eat, for example, lot of time it happens like say an ice cream. Like you take 2 bites, the third bite that there is no delight in it anymore. Like I've experienced it so many times. Right? Like it just goes away. It was just the attraction that this will, oh my God, it will feel so, I don't know, cool and the sugary hit. 2 bites and it's gone. So the full circle we forget, right? We usually just see, okay, abhi kya mil raha hai, and it's big. It feels bigger than it is. When you consciously go through an experience, you can see it's not that solid that you feel it would be. Vacations, we are so always looking at vacation with so big eyes and oh my God, my vacation, this and that. And we forget, there's so many hundred of things that actually make it bad. That thing was uncomfortable or that person was so that thing. But yeah, just don't want to, I guess, go here and there too much. But that instant thing needs to be looked at its instant, but very short lived, very short.
Yes, I think this is what we call purification of buddhi.
Okay.
And that example that I was sharing with you, the other day, that one teacher that was Pradyumanji, he was talking about that if we look at how we satisfy our desires of the senses, whether it's eating, touch, smell, anything, taste. And if with a clarified buddhi we look at it, then we will not be able to satisfy them again, because they keep us round, 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 and there is no actual true satisfaction, contentment is not there. And he says that it's because our buddhi is impurified that we can't see. It's like a curtain that we have in front. That can't you see? You don't get satisfied. You know. So that clarification is not there. And with time and all these experiences and sadhana, as the buddhi becomes clarified, the samaj, the intelligence says it sees clearly that but it doesn't give me satisfaction anymore. Then you can renounce. And that's a true renunciation. Because now you will not come back to it. You have seen it clearly without any curtain. Then it's a true renunciation. Otherwise, it feels like a sacrifice that, oh, for the path of sadhana, I have to sacrifice the senses, you know. But that's not the case. If we see clearly, as you were saying, that why don't we look at it? Then we won't be able to go back to those similar groups because we know that a true contentment is not found there. Just round, 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 like a hamster on the wheel. Um, the root of desire is very deep. This craving self is very deep, and we may think that okay, I have renounced this little thing, that little thing, but this craving really goes very, very deep. It's not that easy, and that's why masters have again and again talked about it, reflected about it. And if not for a complete transformation at first with realization, change of the altitude, and then a complete transformation that now you get in tune with the new taste in your life. You have no addiction or preference to the older tastes anymore. They don't call you. There may be streets, there may be hearts and bazaars all around, but they don't call you. Then something new, a new consciousness begins. Yeah. But I think for that we all need to run a lot somehow. We need to have our experiences. We need to eat that ice cream again and again, again and again. And now maybe I can reflect, but I have eaten it so many times. This doesn't give me anything. So yeah. So any last comments before we end? All right. So maybe we can today end here, pause here. And thank you for joining in, sharing, reflecting, and listening. Just taking last moment to share and dedicate the merit with everyone. Like we share prasad from temples with everyone, sharing the merit. May we all have a peaceful heart, simple mind, and joy and progress in our life. Thank you. Thank you, Shilpa. Bye.